Welcome to the Purely Creative Podcast, your place for an inside look into the everyday lives of creative individuals just like you or me. I am your host, Rich Drake, and I'm a senior college design student wanting to explore the world of design and the creative minds that fuel it. I myself am using this podcast as a means to educate myself and others wanting to learn more about what drives people to work hard and what they do when facing failure. However, this podcast isn't all about me, it's about you. I invite you to relax, listen, and enjoy the conversation. And if you'd like to join it, leave me a comment on what you thought of the show, and I'll make sure to get back to you. But anyways, please enjoy the show and join me on this journey to becoming what I like to call purely creative. Hello. Welcome to my second podcast called Purely Creative. I'm your host, Rich Drake, and I have a host on that is one of my professors. I've learned a lot from this man, and I really look forward to delving into what he considers to be himself as a creative. And so, Ryan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Cool. So my name is Ryan Bitzegaio. I am an assistant professor of graphic design at Coastal Carolina University, Ridge's favorite professor, apparently. I've been at Coastal Carolina for about 3 years, and I guess just over 3 years now. Originally from Indiana for the rest of my life. So I'm a born and raised Hoosier. I have 2 young kids, and we love the beach. So moving to Myrtle Beach was a great move for us. And yeah, that's a good enough introduction for now. We can delve into everything about me, I guess, as we move on.
Absolutely. So, what I was telling Ryan before the show was that I am starting this thing called the Random Round. And what it is it's an intro into the show in which we can get the creative juices flowing. I'm going to ask some random questions. So I know you didn't prepare for this. So I'm going to go ahead and hit you with the first question. Are you ready?
All right. I think I'm pretty random, so this should work.
Okay. What's your superpower or spirit animal?
Superpower or spirit animal, like not like a combined thing?
Either one.
Man, so I used to ask this as a icebreaking question in my classes, actually.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
So I want to preface this by the worst answer I've ever heard. So I'm going to give you a long answer on this random answer. So I'm good at long tangents. So I asked best superpower, and actually this was a guy I worked with at the time. Mm-hmm. He said he wanted to be able to see the future. And I was like, okay, that's cool. He's like, 30 days at a time. I was like, why on earth would you not want to see more than 30 days? And he's like, oh, well, if it's 30 days, I could see winning lottery numbers, and I could, play the stock market, and I could gamble. And I was like, so you just want to be able to see the future to get rich? And he's like, yeah. I was like, why don't you just wish on the power to produce money? And I was like, oh, then why 30 days? He's like, oh, well, I don't want to see when I die. I was like, okay, that's okay, I guess. But what happens when you die within 30 days? Those are the worst 30 days of your life. Anyway, tangent. My superpower. So I'm going to totally steal from one that a student did give me in class once, which is totally a lame answer, but it's just the ability to fly. Yeah. I think there's some obvious benefits of flying, right? It's cool. That's Superman power, and you can get from point A to point B really fast. But I kind of called her out on it being a lame answer, and I asked for her justification. So I'm totally stealing it from the student. I wish I could remember her name. But she said she's afraid of heights. And if you could fly, the fear of heights is the fear of falling, right? Not the fear of heights. Yeah. And if you could fly, you'd never be afraid of falling. And I'm totally afraid of heights. And so that, I really liked that answer. There's a lot of things about heights I like. I like hiking and climbing things, but I'm pretty petrified of being up on the top of an edge of something. So yeah, flight.
Wow, that's a really good intro, because I've never looked at it through that perspective before.
Yeah, I thought it was such a perfect perspective on flight. I was like, yeah, I'm not afraid of being up high. I'm afraid of falling from up high.
She was ready for that question too.
She was. She probably has a much further ingrained fear of heights than I do. I've overcome that fear quite a bit in my life. But.
Cool, nice. All right, so second question.
All right.
What would you do in the event of a zombie apocalypse?
Oh man.
What's your first go-to action?
I have also given this one way too much thought.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think you can watch like a season of The Walking Dead and not think like, what are they doing? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why are they making these choices?
Yep.
So I don't know. Like, have you watched The Walking Dead?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Not all
So
of
like,
it, but
well, you don't need to watch all of that. I
yeah.
think it's even season 1 or 2 when they're in the farmhouse. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they've got such a perfect setting there, right? Like, this is farmhouse in the middle of the country. Like, what a perfect paddock there. Like, if there's a zombie coming, you can see it for a mile away. Like, all they need to set up is like some sort of like kill zone in front of the door. Like, lure the zombie in, kill the zombie, clear it out. Like, they're just,
Yeah.
it's not a hard thing if you've got like Walking Dead style zombies.
Mm-hmm.
If you got like World War Z style zombies where like they flock and they're like cheetah zombies, then that's a whole nother story. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's like just it seems relatively easy, especially in this quarantine world we're living in now. Like the idea of just like staying locked inside so you don't get hit by the zombies, like that. I don't know. It seems
Yeah.
pretty realistic at this point.
Dang. But yeah, I would say, what I'd probably do in the event of apocalypse is, I think I would try and like find a small island, whether it be on a lake. Because I live in like Clemson, Seneca area, which is upstate South Carolina, and there's a couple lakes around here where they just have like these small islands that are actually really close to each other. So
Yeah,
that's probably where I'd set up base, honestly.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
So number 3, this is gonna be the last of the random
All
round.
right.
You've been given an elephant. You can't give it away or sell it. What do you do with the elephant?
Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine. So I mentioned I've got 2 kids already and like they already wrecked the place. So I can't imagine if I had like an elephant as a pet with these 2 kids. Um, I mean, I guess you got to monetize that thing, right? Like, I mean, like elephant rides in the backyard. I think maybe slap a billboard on the side of this thing and drive it around town.
Heck
Um,
yeah.
I mean, if you can't get rid of the elephant, it can't be cheap to keep. So I think you got to figure
No.
out some ways to at least pay for the elephant,
Uh-huh.
because you don't want to get hit up with animal cruelty by not feeding the elephant and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I think it's an advertising tool.
Cool. Nice. I like those answers. Those are all really good, straight to the point. So we're gonna get into the more serious stuff now.
Oh, okay.
Oh
I was pretty serious about the elephant.
yeah. I can tell. I can tell. Okay, so I'm gonna just hit you with it straight. What motivates you to get out of bed in the morning?
Oh my gosh. Oh, these days it takes a lot.
Yeah.
Man, what motivates me to get out of the bed in the morning? I mean, I guess if I'm taking, kind of taking a professional slant on things, which I guess we'll kind of dive into that. Like, um, I like making things, like, and that's to kind of dive into my perspective on design already. Um, I really struggle to call myself any kind of like specific kind of designer. I like the term designer. I like its vagueness because I like to make a lot of different things. Um, while I don't always live up to my ideals, I've the last few years, starting back when I was in grad school, kind of embarked on this journey of creative exploration of under this header of learning to play again. So it was the idea of trying to find some kind of childhood joy in things, because life's pretty damn serious, and we certainly are seeing that the last 8 months or so more than ever. And so just trying to find joy in life and trying to look at things with childlike wonder, engage in creative exploration in a playful way, and learning in a playful way. And it's I like to learn. I guess that would be a much easier answer. What gets me out of the bed each day was, just self improvement and learning. Like that's what I live my life for. That's why education is interesting to me. That's why design is interesting to me. That's why parenthood is interesting to me.
Absolutely. Now I really like that answer. I would definitely say that since I've started to attain many skills through college and even before college when I first started doing graphic design, I would say that I don't like being labeled as a specific type of designer. I just like to be a designer in general because
Yeah.
I don't want to limit myself on what I'm going to do or what my career will be. And just like you said, honestly, what I want to do in life is I just want to make cool shit for people. Like,
Yeah.
excuse my language, but like,
It's your podcast. You can
yeah,
cuss.
yeah. But I just want to make cool stuff that people can enjoy, and that's all there is to it. And as long as I can do that through any facet of design, then like I feel happy. I feel great, you know?
Yeah. And that's, you've heard me talk about this before, but your wide audience of listeners, I have not, my background didn't really start specifically in design per se. But I just learned, these digital tool sets in particular, and they all end up interweaving with one another. And so like once you learn how to make one thing, it lends itself to learning how to make another thing. And these skills just build upon each other and start piling up. Um, and yeah, it's, for those of you that are watching it on video, you can see behind me, I have a 3D printer. And like, that's one of my newest ventures that I'm learning, trying to learn how to 3D model. I do some motion graphics work, which has been traditionally two-dimensional for my entire career, but I'm trying to learn the 3D side of things on that front too. So that's my latest, mountain to climb. But it's been really fun, and working in 3D is totally awesome. And it feels pretty magical anytime something actually comes off of my 3D printer the way I expected it to. It's like you're birthing something into the world off of this 3D printer that just it has a tangible satisfaction that even printing something off of an inkjet printer doesn't have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. No, that's super cool. I've really wanted to mess with 3D printers. There's so much you can make anything with those. It's insane.
It's pretty incredible, and like the one I have behind me is a huge model, and it's relatively affordable now, and that's the big game changer. Is
Mm-hmm.
Since I've had access to 3D printing, which is, gosh, probably been 7 or 8 years or so now, like the price point on these printers has come way down, and the quality of prints that they're capable of printing is way up. And so I'm eager to see how that field continues to evolve and grow. And they've got new 3D printers that are aimed at children to print out 3D toys and stuff. And um, I'm kind of curious to like pull the trigger on buying one of those for my kids, because the skeptic in me feels like the technology is not quite there to make it that easy for kids to use.
Yeah.
But I definitely see the potential of that long term.
Heck yeah. That's awesome, man. So on the idea of like being a designer, creating things, what is something that you've invented? I'm pretty sure I believe you said something about making a board game.
Yeah, I've actually invented a few different games in my life. The one that I'm most proud of is a game called Block, the building game, which is it's a three-dimensional wooden block game. It's a collaborative effort where players of all ages. So I designed it originally for my kids when they were 3 and 5 years old, but it's proven to be a crowd pleaser from 3 to 91, I think, is the oldest I've tested it out. So it's a family game. It's a collaborative game where a team of players work together to build this really interesting winding structure across a multi-tiered wooden board. And it's a project that came out of my study of games and play from grad school and has evolved over the last few years. I'm actively trying to find publishers for the games that I've designed and developed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a whole nother, speaking of things to learn. And so it's just a different industry, and it's not an industry that I had, prior to my efforts, had any particular connections to or any experience within. So it's been a multi-year journey of trying to build a network of people, trying to actually understand the way the industry functions, which that one has been particularly challenging because it's been a moving target, especially over the last 2 or 3 years. I went to New York Toy Fair 2 years ago, and immediately after that, there was the trade war between China and the U.S. And all of a sudden, the toy industry is just wrecked by it. That they don't know. Most of the manufacturing is happening in China, and they don't know how it's going to affect the industry. And that really changed some of the outlook on the industry. And then Toy Fair happened this last year, and I didn't go, but that was it was the very end of February, and we all know that timeline. By
Yep.
mid-March, the same place, so Javits Convention Center in New York City is where New York Toy Fair happens each year. 6 weeks later, it is a hospital. They've transformed it into a hospital for New York, people to be hospitalized there for
Wow.
COVID. So that obviously impacted the industry, although it was kind of a weird impact on the industry too, because all of a sudden when families were home with kids all day, every day, there was kind of a bump in sales of puzzles and board games in particular. So I don't know, it's been a weird beast to try and squeeze into my otherwise busy schedule, trying to figure out all of these moving pieces. But one of the great things that's come out of it, I haven't met some incredible people. There's some really awesome people that have really prominent positions within the industry that are incredibly helpful and kind. I'll shout one out by name. Her name's Mary Cousins. She's the head of a Chicago Toy and Game Fair. It's another big convention that happens every year, normally in person the weekend before Thanksgiving. And she heads up this organization, which just renamed themselves POP, the People of Play. And she's got this kind of high level position. People in the industry know her. She's got all these connections, but she's just this incredibly personal person. And I signed up for her mailing list a couple of years ago, and she immediately connected with me on LinkedIn and messaged me, and we started having a conversation for an hour. And now I've met her in person a couple of different times, and she's just been incredible giving. And even though we don't have much of a professional relationship, we're Facebook friends. And on my birthday, she wished me happy birthday. And I have to give Mary a lot of credit, being the kind of incredible networker that she is. I mean, that's the effort that she has to put forward to build the kind of relationships that she's done is, I think it may come a little natural to her, but it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Networking is like such a key thing, like within an industry. Because I know specifically for me, like before college, I was always nervous. Like I've just been like an introvert. I've always nervous to just talk to people. And when I came into college, I ended up joining a fraternity, and being able to talk and communicate and network with people has just become a part of my everyday life, especially like even in scenarios like this, being able to talk to people online and through Zoom and through my internship that I just joined, just talking to people and just getting to know them is a really good way to network. And it's something that I've developed over the years and I'm pretty proud of doing. And it's so essential, especially within in any industry.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've definitely been trying to tackle and continue to do every single day. So
it can be really frustrating, especially if you are more of an introverted personality but I really can't stress it. And I do it all the time, especially when I'm teaching like our capstone courses and students are looking forward to that interview process and acquiring jobs. Having a portfolio of work and a set of abilities, like those are really important things in the hiring process or landing a job or a gig even. But the most important thing is having those relationships. And I mean, you're definitely right. Like within an industry, there are those networks. And obviously I was just speaking to the toy and game industry. We're talking about an international industry there, but a relatively tight knit, small group of people that all kind of know each other. But I think it's one of the things I actually love about design as a general thing, especially as a very general practitioner, like I'm talking about, the network of people that, come into play for my experiences as a designer isn't narrow. It is not confined to just an industry. The people I end up working with, especially as like a sole practitioner, doing client work, they're from all sorts of different industries. And so I'm mostly outside of teaching. Because I have the day job to support me and pay the bills. The client work I take on, I'm fortunate enough to be able to be relatively selective in who I work with. And so I'm primarily working with nonprofits, individual creatives, which has been a nice venture recently, where I've been able to help, people that aren't designers, but they are illustrators. The website recently for a stand-up comedian.
oh, cool.
But I've also been doing like political groups, and I just did some campaign websites for this upcoming election. So that's been an interesting venture to jump into as well. But none of those people really have design backgrounds to speak
Yeah.
of, and it's pulling from a network of people that I've gotten to know through other walks of life. And once again, getting myself out of bed each day to learn new things. It's
Mhm.
nice that every time I work on a new project, I'm learning new things. Working with this political client, I learned about how my local regions have been gerrymandered, and about different communities around me that have been kind of left out in this
Mhm.
redistricting sort of thing. So it's every project is a new thing to learn, and I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And like for me, for example, a couple months ago during quarantine, uh, this guy that I've seen walk around my neighborhood a couple times, uh, we were out working in the yard, and he passes by, introduces himself, and now he's my boss
Oh yeah,
for my internship.
nice.
Yeah, yeah. And who knew that I was gonna get a design internship from somebody in my neighborhood?
Yeah, it's I don't know. Life definitely works in weird ways like that. But I think, just being open to those opportunities that I think we're surrounded by, monster.com and Indeed and, all these job postings and just massive onslaughts of online job postings. But like, I don't honestly know anyone who's ever gotten a job through any of those avenues.
I
Like,
haven't.
I know lots of people with jobs, but that's not how they've gotten their jobs. And speaking from my own personal experience, I've had, probably a dozen different job titles and things. And my job here at Coastal is actually one of the most disconnected relationships. Like I didn't know, frankly, I didn't know Coastal was a school before I applied for the job. That's just my own ignorance, really. Um, but I found really quickly after I applied that I had actually all these connections to Coastal that I didn't know existed. So I was coming from Ball State University in Indiana, and my last year there, I worked within a weird department within IT there actually, but there was a new director of the art department while I was there. And I found out after I came down here, I didn't even realize it. The guy who was the new director of that department was the former chair of the visual arts department at Coastal.
Oh
That's
wow.
his last stop was Coastal before he went to Ball State. So when I show up with my resume applying for this job, that everybody there recognizes Ball State's name. It's like, oh, that's where Arnie is. And I actually had two or three other connections like that were just these kind of weird professional networks that one of my letters of recommendation is one of my good friends, Aaron Beckloff, who's a letterpress printer, and Scott Mann, who's the head of our graphic design program, is a
Hmm.
letterpress printer, and they know each other. And so my letter of reference is somebody the head of the program actually knows
Hmm.
personally. Um, and so did I know Scott beforehand? I didn't, but my network knew his network or knew him really personally in this case. And yeah, it's all about having those relationships and building on them. I guess same thing goes. You got to be careful not to burn those relationships, um, especially within small communities and small industries. Giving yourself a bad name can burn you professionally really quickly.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's I'm glad we're talking about this because it's something that I definitely want like our viewers to like listen to and think about because I wish I would have had the advice and perspective of somebody coming into the like coming into the industry. I guess you could say I'm transitioning into the industry now,
Sure.
but people who aspire to like be designers and or just someone with a job in general, networking is so essential. And yeah, I'm really glad we covered that topic. But transitioning on as far as like work and getting your work done, how would you say that you manage your time?
Poorly.
Yeah,
Is that an
me
answer?
too.
Poorly.
Me too.
I'm a terrible time management. I might be the worst person to talk to about these sorts of things. I'm a terrible procrastinator, and I work late into the evenings most nights. Um, I take on more than I probably should. Those are all traits that I would not recommend. um, it's I don't know. I guess I don't have a whole lot of words of wisdom other than just staying committed to what you're doing and committed to the words and promises that you make, whether that's, you know, a day job or family relationships. You know, I'm balancing a lot of those things. You know, at one point in my life, when I decided to do grad school, I maintained I was a full-time employee. I was a full-time grad student. I did freelance work on the side, and my kids were 2 and 4 when I started grad school.
Wow.
And so, you know, that's, I certainly know how to fill up a calendar really quick.
Yeah, you can say that.
And I'm pretty good at functioning on very little sleep. These are not things I would recommend. I guess here's a good piece of advice, and I'll call out another awesome person in my life. My first advisor in grad school was an awesome educator named Nikki Ewan, and one of the times, it was actually after she had been my advisor. I was meeting with her for another semester during my time at grad school, and I had a scheduled 15-20 minute meeting with her, and I sat down with her, and after a few minutes in discussion, she had a post-it note in front of her, and she wrote something on the post-it note and circled it, and then handed it over to me, and it was just the word no in a circle, and she said, "This is your permission slip to say no to things." And it was weird how impactful that was to me. Like, and I think that is something that definitely comes with a degree of maturity and adulthood, like understanding that just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you have a relationship with somebody doesn't mean that they're going to think less of you or expect less of you in the now. That may be the most valuable lesson I took out of grad school, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I mean, she definitely hit me at a point when, in particular, I was taking on too much. I was doing too much freelance in addition to all of the other things I was doing. And so from that point on, the rest of the time I was in grad school, I just shut down my freelance practice. And it was such an easy thing for me to do. I didn't particularly need the money at the time. And what I needed more than anything was more sleep and time with my family. And so eliminating that portion of my life for another year, I think, at that point of grad school, like it was an easy call to make. As soon as I was done with grad school, clients came right back to me. It wasn't, I had the same relationships I'd already built still existed. I had to tell a few people no in the process, and I don't think they loved it at the point, but I was just clear and to the point with them and let them know, like, I just don't have time in my life for this right now.
Yeah, I would definitely say that out of all those things that you've said, and what I've experienced, I would say that sleep is extremely important. For those of you who stay up late, I still do it sometimes, but I try not to do it as much. Like I'll stay up till like 3 a.m. every now and then, but like my sophomore year, I made some really, really bad decisions. So
that's what college is for.
Yeah, no, of course. So sophomore year, I would say was definitely a struggle for me because so some of you may not know, but I have really bad ADD and ADHD, and I've been struggling with that since my middle school years, since the beginning of middle school. And I take medicine for it. And like whenever I wasn't on it, I feel like I couldn't do anything productive. I feel like I couldn't like just be a normal human being. I couldn't function. I was tired all the time. And so my sophomore year, I would take my medicine, and some of you may know, like medicine for ADD or ADHD is known as Adderall or Vyvanse, and it increases your heart rate. And it doesn't, I can't get into all the technicalities about it, but
you're not a doctor.
Yeah, I will tell you that it will keep you awake. And so what I did was very irresponsible and very stupid, but I would chain my medicine to the point to where I would be up for 4 days straight.
Oof.
And it was taking a really bad impact on my health. Like when I realized that what I was doing was really bad was finals week. The longest I've ever stayed up was 5 days straight. I hope nobody ever does this because it was the worst thing I've ever done. I knew it was a problem when I was sitting in a final critique. standing talking about my project, and my knees almost gave out. It was like,
Oh,
I hope. Okay, everybody just sleep. That's all I have to say, and don't do what I did because that's a really
drugs are
dumb
bad.
idea. But yeah, and so yeah, drugs are bad. Don't do drugs, kids. But at the end of the day, I was just abusing what I had
Right.
when I wasn't capitalizing when I could be. So now sleep is so important to me. Instead of staying up late, I'll be like, okay, let me go to bed early and get up early, because then you don't have to stay up late and sacrifice your sleep.
Yep.
So that's the one thing that helps my productivity. And especially, I don't know if you do this, but power naps are essential for me. Like 20-minute naps throughout the day, they're golden.
I am not good at those. I'm pretty good at laying down for a nap and waking up 2 hours later.
Mm-hmm.
But that's I am 100% behind your messaging of the importance of sleep, and I think it definitely goes to a mentality that I believe wholeheartedly in working smarter, not harder. And I think getting the right amount of sleep prepares you for a day, and you can do better work. Unfortunately, of late, I feel like I've just fallen into a an awful pattern that the stretching of a day and procrastination of in any way, shape, or form just starts to kind of pile up on itself, and um, you know all I really need is a time to kind of reset the whole calendar. And would, I guess, encourage other people to figure out ways to do that. That trying to reset your life at different intervals. Get past a hump so that you can reset. And so I will frequently kind of look out on the calendar, like when can I reset? When this needs to get done by here, so that I can have time to reset and recalibrate for the following week or the following month, or whatever journey lies ahead. And fortunately, as an academic, the academic calendars, it's just not like anything else in the world. Like, as far as professions go, to be working these like weird 15-week sprints, and then we'll have a month off where we don't really have to work on any sort of prescribed schedule. So I'm really living for this winter break that's coming up, which
Oh, I know.
is going to have an extra week in it. I don't know if you've noticed
Oh.
the calendar they changed the calendar for the spring semester. Well, I guess you're graduating, aren't you? So like you don't even care about the spring semester.
Yeah.
Well, if you pass my class, that is.
Yeah, hopefully. But all jokes aside, yeah, sleep is important, and also like being able to separate work and your free time, and that's so hard to do right now, especially for
Real
people
hard.
who are taking classes online like myself. And like me, I've been in front of my computer since 8 this morning, and like I've made it like through those small intervals of time I've gone downstairs, stretched my legs, got some food, sleeping, being able to take breaks is so important. That they're so essential to my work day. And stepping outside, that's another really important
Yep.
thing. And just trying to get some exercise in every single day. That to me really boosts my productivity, and I find myself to be a lot more attentive, because whenever you sit in front of a screen all day and you're not giving yourself a break, it's so repetitive, and it literally, like, it fries my brain.
Yep.
And I just need to step outside, take a deep breath, and just take your mind off of like work for a second, and eat good food, be healthy, just make good habits.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you just said. That's I'm trying to get myself back in some better routines, especially when we first started quarantining. I was definitely making a point of every day, get outside, walk around the block, or whatever you want to call it, in my neighborhood. And I've gotten out of that practice, and I did it yesterday. And by the time I was done with that walk, like my everything felt better. Like physically, I felt better. Mentally, I felt better. I felt more awake and more acute. Like everything felt better. I was like, why on earth have I not been spending a half an hour each day doing this?
Yeah.
And especially, we live, it's darn right balmy outside today, and or I guess late October, which I'm from Indiana, and it's already snowed in parts of Indiana already this year. Like that's gross.
That's crazy. But as far as like all the things that we've addressed, I would say that like making sure that you have like a routine that's really important, and it is very hard in times like this because we're not used to it, and being inside all day, you kind of get into the practice and the routine of doing the same thing over again, sitting in front of your screen, going to class and stuff like that. But yeah, routine is important. Sleep, eating good, all that stuff. And then whenever you start to maintain good habits, it becomes a part of your daily routine, and then it's like second nature. Because I know, so like a month ago, I started going to the gym and working out like really heavy.
Good for you.
And I was like super tired in the mornings. I felt like crap. And my boss invited me to this group called F3, which we go and work out every morning at 5:30 for 45 minutes doing high intensity workouts with all like ex-military police officers, stuff like that. It's a pain in my butt at first, but now I'm like, I get up and boom, 4:30 straight out of bed, go downstairs, do like a pre-workout meal, go work out for 45 minutes to an hour, freaking kill it, come back, eat eat a big protein meal, lots of calories, and then workday starts after a shower, of course. But yeah.
8 a.m. class with me,
Yeah. But it seriously, like taking care of yourself, eating right, and doing all those things just makes your work life so much better. And when you can separate both like work and home life, but complement them at the same time, like through workouts and eating healthy, then it just makes work so much better.
Absolutely.
So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it up here with one more question.
All right.
We've made some good points. We talked about some really good things, but what advice do you have for someone like who wants to design or come into the industry?
Well, I mean, I guess that kind of depends on what lens you're taking at, kind of the approach here. I've been doing some consulting work with a group in Indiana, and it's a code boot camp kind of place where they mostly do programming, but they've got a UI UX course going now, and I've been doing some consulting with them and asked a pretty similar question there. And well, in that situation in particular, we've got a number of most of the class are adult learners coming to design from slightly different industries. And so I guess my advice there is that design is absolutely everywhere. Like, you just look around the room, look at the things in front of you. Absolutely everything has been designed by someone. A lot of cases designed poorly, but the process of design is making decisions and putting something together. And so it doesn't matter if it's industrial design that made the pen in my hand or the water bottle sitting in front of me or the lamp shining light on my face. People made the decisions on how those things would go together and how those pieces would work together. And then obviously, I'm more of a graphical designer, talking about interfaces and websites and logo design. Like, these things are all around us. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, and more often someplace in between. And so the best advice is somebody that's trying to become a designer is to just tune yourself into that. Tune yourself into the fact that literally everything around you is designed. Anything that is manufactured or a human has put together, and use that critical thinking that and evaluate things on a daily basis. Notice things that are frustrating you, notice things that are giving you joy, and then think about the process of how they came together, how they were designed. And obviously, especially for those things that are giving you frustrations, well, if you were the designer, how would you improve that experience? And anymore, through 3D printing and digital prototyping, like, you can start experimenting with these things. And I highly encourage people to do those sorts of things. Even if it isn't going to, actually be the solution, you're not working for the company that's actually making that product. Maybe you will at some point. Maybe that's your in. Once you solve the better water bottle, you get a job at, I've got a Contigo water bottle. Maybe you get a job at Contigo and you're, because you've solved some issue they've got with their water bottle. So yeah, it's, just really tuning into your surroundings. I think it's really easy, going back to our previous discussion, to fall into daily routines and start to ignore the things that are around you. And a lot of, especially industrial design, good design is stuff that just fades into the background and that you don't notice. And that's actually a sign of great design, that you just intuitively use something. You didn't think about the way that it worked, the way that it operated, or the way that you should be using it. But just kind of turning yourself on to that perspective, I think is really important.
Awesome, man. I love that advice. You definitely hit so many key points, and I'm glad you did. And we went on multiple really good tangents. And
I'm good at that.
yeah, no, that's why I like having you on here, or like why I wanted you on here, because I know you could really capitalize on these ideas and these questions and give some really good advice. And I know people are really going to appreciate that when they listen to this. So yeah, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on. It was a real pleasure talking to you. And yeah, anything else you want to say before we end it here?
I don't think so. Have a great day. Thanks for having me on, Ridge.
Yeah, of course. All right, man. Well, I guess I'll see you in class.